Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Yankee Yard. And today, during this really slow and really boring offseason, I'm going to be going over where I think every major free agent will sign. Now, are all these guys going to be major free agents? No, but I think I have a pretty good idea of where a lot of these guys are going to go. And I just wanted to share that with you guys. First off, we have third baseman Alex Bregman coming off a year in Boston. Now, Alex Bregman, despite having a really injury-riddled 2025, still had 18 home runs in an 822 OPS and 3 outs above average, showing the contact and power bat that we know him to have, and the good glove at third base that we also know him to have. Now, because of these two things, I think he's kind of easily the best third baseman on the market. No offense to Eugenio Suarez, who we will get to later in this video. And because of that reason, I just don't think that Boston is going to let him leave, especially because we know how many players they've been interested in this offseason. Okamoto, Pete Alonso, Kyle Schwarber, and them just not really being able to get any of those guys yet. So because of this, I have Alex Bregman returning to Fenway on a 5 years, $150 million contract. Next up, we have Cody Bellinger coming off a year in the Bronx. Now, what's interesting about Cody Bellinger is he plays all outfield positions and first base, and that versatility really makes him a valuable commodity on the free agent market. Now, Cody Bellinger, despite being a rental, I don't think the Yankees knew how good Bellinger would be for them this year. Bellinger slugged in 29 homers with an 814 OPS, and he showed off the glove with a 7 outs above average this year. Because of all this, and the fact that the Yankees are pretty confident that Bellinger won't leave them for another New York team that really needs a guy like Bellinger, I don't see a reason why Bellinger won't return to the Bronx, and I could see it happening on a 6-year, $175 million contract. Next up is the big fish in the sea, Kyle Tucker. Now, Kyle Tucker is going to generate a lot of interest from the big market ball clubs. The Yankees, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Phillies. And he's just not going to get a lot of interest from the tinier ball clubs, even if they do make a lot of money. And a lot of teams also just aren't going to be willing to spend that much on Kyle Tucker because he's had an injury-riddled past few years. And in 2025, on 1 year with the Cubs, he had 22 homers, an 841 OPS, and only 500 at-bats. He's still one of the best hitters in the game. Because of this, I see him going to the Dodgers on a 7-year, $345 million contract. Next up is Bo Bichette, coming off a World Series appearance with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, Bo Bichette was second in batting average and second in hits with 18 home runs throughout the 2025 season. He's also started to inform teams that he's going to be willing to play second base, which I think is pretty important because his defense at shortstop has been lackluster for a lot of his career. I just don't really see a world where the Toronto Blue Jays are ever going to let him leave, and I kind of see him returning there on a longer deal, maybe 7 years. So I have Bo Bichette returning to Toronto on a 7-year, $215 million contract. Next up is Eugenio. And Eugenio is interesting because his market is surprisingly dead for a guy who was 5th in home runs last year with 49. He also had an 824 OPS, which was 29th in the league. Now, I get that he does have lackluster defense and only had a 228 batting average if you care about that. But I feel like his market should be a lot better than it is, but it isn't. So I see him going to the Los Angeles Angels, especially after the contract buyout with Anthony Rendon. They're already spending money with Kirby Yates being an Angel now. I think it kind of makes sense, especially because we know that they are in on Okamoto, but I see Okamoto going somewhere else. I could see Eugenio Suarez getting a 3-year, $75 million contract with the Los Angeles Angels. Next up on the list, we have starting pitcher Framber Valdez. Now, Framber Valdez's market seems to be a little disrespected and undervalued by fans because of the whole catcher cross-up situation he had. And I think that that's ridiculous. Framber Valdez is still an extremely impactful pitcher and is a potential ace when he's at his best. Sadly, though, he had a down year last year, having a 3.66 ERA and a 1.24 whip, but he was still 20th in strikeouts with a 187 Ks to finish the year. I could see Framber Valdez going to a place that really needs a starting pitcher and a place that's willing to spend, and we don't have to look far because we could just go back to the good old faithful AL East and head to Baltimore. Baltimore has been spending this entire offseason and is looking to get starting pitchers, and we see that with the trade with the Rays for Shane Baz. I see Framber Valdez getting a 5 years, $140 million contract with the Baltimore Orioles. Next up, we have catcher JT Realmuto coming off a few years with the Phillies. Now, JT's 34 years old, so he's not going to get a very long-term contract, and nor is he a very major free agent, but I feel like it's pretty obvious where he's going to go. JT did have a fine year. He wasn't an amazing defensive catcher, which is pretty out of character for him, but he did finish the year with 12 home runs and a .699 OPS, making him a decent player. Now, I don't see a world where JT doesn't return to Philadelphia, and I don't see him getting a very long-term contract, so I see him getting a 2 years, $25 million contract to remain a Philly. Next, we have Ranger Suarez. Now, Ranger Suarez is interesting because during the regular season, he is an average pitcher. Last year, he had a .320 ERA with a .122 whip. But you kind of want him because he's one of the best postseason performers in the MLB today, and he does it pretty consistently. And I think he's going to go to a team that really wants to make the postseason and did make the postseason last year and has a pretty strong young group of guys. I see him going to the Chicago Cubs, who do need a starting pitcher and aren't interested in Amaya apparently and don't want to take that risk. I see him going to Chicago for a 4 years, $130 million contract. Next up, we have first baseman Luis Arraez. And Luis Arraez is interesting because I don't think anybody knows if he is a good player or not. I mean, we know he's good at not striking out. He finished the year tied for second in hits with Bo Bichette and only 21 strikeouts, which is amazing. But he isn't fast, so he can't steal. He doesn't have a great eye, so he'll end up swinging at a lot of stuff out of the zone. And contact is good, but weak contact is pretty terrible. And Luis Arraez produces a lot of weak contact. If he gets on, he's not really a threat to steal bases, and he's not really a home run threat, I say as he hits a homer. And I just don't know what's going to go on with Luis Arraez this offseason. But there are a lot of teams that do need infielders. So I could see Luis Arraez going to the Boston Red Sox on a 2-year, $21 million contract. Next up, we have Tetsuya Amai coming from the Seibu Lions in Japan. Now, Amai is probably one of the most interesting free agents in this free agent class because he throws gas, he has that gyro slider that breaks hand side, and all around he's just really, really, really nasty. And we've seen how well these Japanese pitchers can work in the MLB with Shohei, Yamamoto, Roki Sasaki, Tanaka. And I just don't see a world where every team that we've heard is interested all of a sudden is not interested. The Yankees, Cubs, Giants, Phillies, and now the White Sox are maybe the front runners for him. I just don't see a world where that's possible. So I see Tetsuya Amai going to the Phillies. They're going to need another pitcher if Ranger Suarez leaves them. And I see them getting him for 7 years, $180 million. Next up, we have Kazuma Okamoto from the Yomiuri Giants in Japan. Now, Kazuma Okamoto, I would say, is the better player than Munetaka Murakami in terms of the contact that he can produce and the defense that he could play at both first and third base. Now, Okamoto is a really good player. I'm really high on Okamoto. I like everything about the guy, and I do think that he's going to get a pretty big contract, a lot bigger than some people might think. And the two teams that we know are interested, or are reported interested, are the Angels and the Pirates. And I think the Pirates should and will get him because they would have a really, really, really good infield. Because they would have Okamoto at third, Connor Griffin at short, Brandon Lau at second, and Ryan O'Hearn at first. That's one of the best infields in the MLB, as well as O'Neal Cruz in center and Brian Reynolds in right or left. I do think that as long as their pitchers kind of play well, which they have Paul Skeens, we know at least one of them will, that they are a playoff team. So I see Kazuma Okamoto going to the Pirates on a 3 years, $50 million contract. That's it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below if you disagree with anything I said, or if you have any other predictions that you may have. And I'm going to be gone until Sunday, which is the 4th, which means Amai's deadline will have passed, so will Okamoto's have passed when I am back. So by the time I'm back and I could review these, we will know a lot about what I am right and what I am wrong on, because I think a lot of free agents will sign between now and Sunday. So I will catch all you guys in the next one.